Thanks so much, Dishy and team. Welcome to North Coast. Can I add my welcome? My name's Jeff. I'm on the pastoral team here. I noticed that Victor very kind of carefully neglected to mention that we're starting a new series today. We're actually starting a new series in the Song of Songs. And before we jump into that, we're kind of pausing our Luke series. We're not finished with Luke. We're going to come back to it next year. But we're pausing to take a couple of weeks to look at this book, Song of Songs. And before we jumped in, I just wanted to give an overview of what's happening, because my guess is that it's not a very familiar part of the Bible for most of us. And so I wanted to start just by reading a little bit. If you've never read it before, here is like a little taste, just 2 verses from chapter 1, verse 15. How beautiful you are, my darling. Oh, how beautiful your eyes are doves. How handsome you are, my beloved. Oh, how charming, and our bed is verdant. It's not kind of what you expect to find in the Bible, is it? It's kind of 8 chapters of exactly that. It's not explicit at any moment, but it is passionate, and it is sexually charged the whole way through. It's a book that never mentions God and is all about intense physical attraction and longing for intimacy. And so before we dive in, we kind of need to ask a few questions just to orient ourselves towards this book. So firstly, what are we reading when we read Song of Songs? It is so unlike every other part of the Bible. Well, if you go back through Christian history, there were times when Song of Songs was banned, like it was too much. You weren't allowed to read it, or at least you couldn't read it until you turned 30. That was a good day when you turned 30. But for most of church history, it's been read as an allegory, right? Like a story with a hidden meaning that is really not about the man and the woman, but it's about God and his love for his people. It's about Christ's marriage to the church. Unfortunately, I think that doesn't really do justice to the type of writing that it is. Because as you read it, you find that it is a collection of ancient love poems. I think a helpful way to think about it is like an album of love songs. It's like a playlist that you make, that you label songs to walk down the aisle to. That's what it is. It's songs like that. And the title is Song of Songs. That's like Lord of Lords. It's like a way of saying the greatest song ever, and this is it. But I think it's also called Song of Songs because it is a collection of lots of little songs pieced together into one big song. So it is kind of like an album with different songs that kind of touch on different aspects of love and longing, but they kind of fade in and out of each other. And I think it helps to kind of see it like that, to know that that's what we're reading, because this couple here that we're going to read about, they're not a real couple, right? They're like idealized pictures of love for us to aspire to. Kind of like listening to a beautiful Ed Sheeran song and just like, oh, wouldn't that be lovely? That's the kind of thing. It's labeled there in verse 1 as Solomon's Song of Songs. I think that doesn't mean that he wrote it. I think what it means is that it kind of puts it in his wisdom tradition. These songs are wisdom literature. They're written to help us navigate life in God's world, to help us to live wisely in the area of our sexuality and our desires, so that we could read it and understand something about ourselves, something about our longings. Now, why is it important to study Song of Songs? Well, on Netflix, you can watch a show called Love Island. I do not recommend you watch this show. But the idea of the show, I take it, ChatGPT tells me that it's all about these, they kind of fill this island, this kind of tropical place full of these desirable young singles, and they all have to form romantic couples, and the viewers get to vote on which couple they like the best in order to stay on the island. But the thing is, you're allowed to switch partners. If you like someone more, or if you think you're going to get further with someone else, you can change. And the show will deliberately drop bombshells, like good, the pun intended, like super attractive new players who jump in and kind of unsettle the whole thing so that people try and switch it up. Now, it's just a TV show, right? But I don't know, you tell me. Do you think we're confused about love and about sexuality and about attraction? And if you're growing up in this culture, where there is a Love Island Albania, literally every country has a Love Island, right? How are we filtering all of this noise into a wise approach to relationships and marriage? And that's to say nothing of the confusion around sexual identity and gender and all of those things. We desperately need to spend time reflecting on God's wisdom for our identity as people who have been created by Him with real sexual desires, real longing for intimacy. And so I hope that just meditating on Song of Songs will help us with that. Finally, how are we going to tackle Song of Songs? Well, when I first planned out this series, I thought to myself, look, we need to be teaching about sex and sexuality. That's really important for us in our culture. So we'll do a couple of weeks on Song of Songs, just as a way to open up all these topics. And look, I'll be honest, smart, loving people tried to warn me. They said, Jeff, you really want to teach Song of Songs? You want to do this? And I was like, yeah, no worries. It'll be easy. I'll pull out some big principles, and it'll be like a topical series. No trouble. Consider me rebuked. I was way off, right? That is not how Song of Songs works. It is not like that. The song is endlessly fascinating. It is utterly resistant to easy principles and simple answers in this area. It is wisdom literature at its finest. It doesn't just give you the answers. It says, think about this. Reflect on it yourself. It makes you stop and think and reread and come at it again. And it's a song. So it communicates through its mood, its vibe, just the emotions of it. And so I have felt rebuked by that. And what we're not going to do, we're not going to try and mine it for big principles. I'm not going to be up here trying to dish out relationship advice or tips on romance. That would be dire coming from me, let's just say. What we're going to do is we're just going to listen. We're going to listen to a few different sections. I'm going to read it out as we go, just to kind of listen to some of the songs on this album, to hear wisdom from God about ourselves and our world and the desires that He's given us. And even though this song doesn't work like an allegory, as we listen to these songs, we are going to think about what it tells us about Christ and His love for us. Because Jesus Himself says that all of the scriptures point towards Him. And the story of the Bible is that our relationship with God is like a love story. It is like a marriage with promises made and an unfaithful bride that runs away and a hero that pursues his beloved to win her back. And it ends with a marriage and a picture of incomparable intimacy. And so as we read Song of Songs, we want to read it thinking about the wisdom that God gives us for our own relationships and as created people. But we also, we don't want to miss the way that it teaches us about that to point us towards the wonderful, exquisite love that Christ has shown us as His people. That's where we're going. I'm going to hand over to Victor. He's going to lead us in prayer, and I'm going to jump up and we'll read some Song of Songs together.
Thank you, Jeff.